whatever comes, we'll face it together.
Let's go.
Fede, I'm going to start with you. I mean, this is you're taking on a mammoth task. I was going to say monster of a task, but take us back. Where did it begin for you?
It really starts right when I finished my second film, Don't Breathe. I have a meeting with Ridley's producer, and they were there was a movie they were going to make that was falling apart at that moment, and but Ridley was starting to do Covenant, and I said, oh man, just as a fan, I said, if you make an alien movie, I hope he does this. I was just saying what I wanted to see in that movie. I was like, I hope Ridley takes it back to this time, and I hope he does it this way, and I hope you guys don't use too much CG. And suddenly, I was pitching this whole vision for an alien movie, and then I think a few years later, someone caught wind of the story that I had pitched an alien movie once. And they called me up from Fox and from 20, and they said, like, is it true that you once pitched to Ridley this story? And I said yes, and I told them what it was, and they asked me, would you like to write it and direct it? And here we are.
I mean, the world of Alien Romulus is breathtaking. Naaman, your sets, to Fede's point, it's practical. It's not. What was your creative brief that you received from him when he said, we're going to do the next Alien movie?
Well, one of the most refreshing briefs that he gave me early on was that he wanted it to fit between the first two films. So when I heard that, it was like, oh yeah, we got this. So very early on, we just started discussing what we liked and didn't like, what was the strongest bits that could work in the next one. And then it really started to get fun when we started playing with the idea of kind of meddling with the timing of it and how to get from Ridley into Cameron. And that's when it really started getting fun for Fede with all the concepts and designs and really pushing the envelope on that. The typical brief from Fede was make it smaller, make it tighter. To the point where we would be in a room and I'd say, Fede, you're really saying this small? I can't fit in there. And he said, you're not an actor. And literally, I said, you are so right. We'll make it that small. And we did in certain areas where we wanted the claustrophobic sense of scary, dark, we would tighten it up. And then where we wanted to kind of introduce a set, we'd open it up and be able to walk 3 wide and 3 abreast. And, the brief on the cockpit was, I want it to feel like they're all, like when you're in high school and you fit like 6 people in the car, you just get your license and we're all just gonna get in the Pinto and just like cruise down to get an ice. That was the brief on the cockpit. So you were hard pressed to get the actors in there and the shooting crew and then the whole chestburster scene with, these guys underneath and Fede underneath. It was insane.
Watching the movie the other day, I realized also it's like in the original movie has the same thing. It's a combination of very claustrophobic set pieces with incredible, like massive scale shots, right? Like the original does that very well. You're inside the ship, you're inside, and then you come outside, and when they go inside the derelict, right, in the first one, and they're going really tiny figures, like going down at this massive spaceship that makes you go, wow. And then you back tight, and it is the combination of space that could be so big, but he's still tiny. It's a little bit like those movies where a guy is stranded in the ocean in a small boat and dying of thirst, right? Like it is so claustrophobic at the same time, and he's so open wide. And I think that's like the two of you together, Eric, VFX Supervisor, creating those amazing visuals outside, those big scope shots that then you go back inside the cockpit that really makes it work for me. That's the cold, hot combination.
Amazing. Shane, I'm looking at you. I mean, talk about the work that you did on this and puppeting the xenomorphs and what Fede said to you.
The call came out of the blue during a time when we had nothing going on, and it completely shocked me because I didn't know about the film. We didn't know that it was being done. And it was a complete and utter surprise. So when we got it, we were so happy to put our heart and soul into it because it was the ability to return to that world and to perfect what we had accomplished back then and to use today's technology, which is leaps and bounds past what we did on the film in '86, which was very handcrafted. I mean, we were sculpting by hand and using calipers and your eye and rudimentary mechanics. Today, we use the computer and very, very advanced robotics. Fede's want was that he wanted as much in-camera as possible. So we didn't want to let him down. So we really poured our guts into it. And that's really the bottom line.
When I call Shane, I'm a fanboy of that movie of Aliens, right? So I'm like, he's telling me stories about the Queen and Aliens and Animatronic. I'm like, I'm so happy that I'm just collaborating with them. I just can't believe it. And when I finally tell Shane, okay, we got to do this together, you said something I find incredible. I know what you mean now, but you were like, okay, it's great because I think so many things on Aliens that could have been done better. So I think this movie is going to be our chance to get it right. I was like, what are you talking about? That's a masterpiece. All these years later, he's still thinking, that little thing that we could have done better. That Queen that I could have done. There's that thing they didn't do that it could do this time, and that I think we've done with the animatronics of this film. Way more advanced and way more alive. I think in many shots than before. But I was always blown away by that when we all see it as this masterpiece, and he just get this chance to do it right.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, of course I did.
Will and Lee, I mean, the sound of this film, especially in this room, is incredible. Talk about how you approached the sound for this film and how you also pay homage to the original and Aliens.
Well, I mean, I have to say, Lee is the biggest Alien fan I know.
No, you're not. I am.
You guys are going to have to wrestle right now. And so the thing that became apparent to us immediately when we met Fede was that he was also an incredibly huge Alien fan. Then, of course, we got into talking immediately about what made these original films feel so special, because they really, from an audio point of view, both of the two original films really did push the art forward. What we realized pretty quickly, besides just the sounds themselves being unique, was the bold choices that were made during the mix. When to use music, when to not use music, when to take sounds away, the contrast. So that, in a lot of ways, became kind of our North Star for approaching the sound, was like, if there's ever a left turn to make, take the left turn. Like, don't ever do the safe choice. From my point of view, was trying to figure out, as a mixer, how do I make this world feel the same? And we had a deep dive on analog distortion and what the technological limits of the 70s. They were dubbing on, everything was recorded on tape on set. They were dubbing in magnetic film, multiple generations of magnetic film, to the point that we put up the original film in the mixing theater. Sounds like this room's a beautiful sounding room, and what you realize pretty quickly is that it's actually, by modern standards, sounds horrible, but technically, but in terms of how it makes you feel, it was nearly unsurpassed. So what we had to figure out was, how do we reverse engineer that feeling into the sound of the film?
Yeah, it was a huge responsibility to try to figure out how to get back into the vibe of '79. So as we were creating all these new sounds, Will and I would just constantly ask ourselves, is this world appropriate? That's the word that we kept going back to. Is this passing the vibe check? Because we really wanted to honor '79, but we didn't want to get into something where we were, recycling sounds. So we recreated a lot of our own. That echo probe waking up at the beginning of the movie is a great example of that, because that's all pretty much like 99% new sounds, but to the guy on the street, that sounds like '79. So that's like, okay, we nailed it. So we were constantly just making sure that we were hitting the vibe, and Will spoke about contrast. We took huge swings on, huge oppressive sounds when the Corbelin's taking off, and then just, silence, and then trying to push it as far as we could on making stuff just nasty, as gross as possible. That Offspring standing up, like his back is just like, oh my God, stop, it's so gross. But it's also so cool, so that was really fun.
Eric, your visual effects, and congratulations to you and your team on everything that you've done. The 0G scene, When you saw that on the script, when Fede says, "This is what we're going to do," what's your reaction? How did you pull it off?
My initial reaction is like, I told the studio, and then Fede was like, we got to start now. that was in July of 22. Just because I knew the planning we'd have to go through just to figure out how to shoot it and what he wanted to do, and use as much practical as possible. What do we build a 5-story set horizontally, and what do we do vertically, and how much is wire, how much is CG? It's like, yeah, that was a big. We got to start this one now because this is tricky.
You know, I think one of the big highlights of the movie are those space shots that I think this movie's always really, you know, they need to really feel authentic, and all it, you know, Eric was the one that came up early on with they did some research and find out about that the rings in Saturn and Casino were actually made of ice. And he told me, like, you know what? I find out that some of them are the size of mountains. And I was like, what? And that's when we thought, well, imagine like an iceberg hitting a ship. You've never seen that before. And also to be inaccurate and not being just a crazy fantasy, but something that actually could feel real. And that I tell you, is one of the things that I'm more proud of when I watch it on the screen. And it was so much work as well. Sometimes you think it's gonna be, okay, you pitch it, you bring the best companies in the world that work in this company, they did, and you get the shots, and you get to choose the light, and it is so difficult to really achieve this level. It was, you know, really Eric going at it every day, like adjusting the light, the bounces, the specs, how much light comes from the planet, and to go see an IMAX these days, when I finally see it on a big screen and see those shots and the combination of all the work going together, I tell you, it's the best part. And see the people like it as well is the best part. I gotta admit, if you do all that, no one likes it. It just sucks. But I hopefully some of you liked it today.
Well, I think people do love it, right? You all love this, and we want, you know, you have, yes. You have the best group of artisans, and I don't know if the offspring really died or not. And, you know, you've got the keys to the alien kingdom now and the franchise, and, you know, maybe you can make another one. But I want to say congratulations to you again, and to you all for this incredible film, and to you all for coming out on this Saturday evening. Tell everyone to go and watch Alien Romulus. Spread the word, and thank you again to me.
Thank you.